in the dark days of the pandemic when we were sitting around.
Oh, yeah.
What the heck were we doing? Ping pong was huge in the first few months. But yeah, God bless the KBO. I really came to appreciate the bat flips in the KBO.
They didn't mess around, hey?
Shout out to the KT Wiz. Became my favorite team through all of this. But yeah, I mean, listen, I'll be honest. I'm not hitting a lot of Japanese or Korean baseball right now because there's some big games in the majors that we're hitting right now.
The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler. Weekday mornings at 11, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Join friend of EST, Guy Flaming, for The Pipeline Show, Monday nights at 8 and Saturday at noon, as he has you covered with CHL, CJHL, USHL, NAHL, NCAA, and U Sports, plus the World Juniors, Frozen Four, and NHL Draft on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Friend of EST, Eric Thomas, takes you around the track all the way to the checkered flag on Raceline Radio, Tuesday nights at 8 and Saturday morning at 9, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Catch up with friends of EST, Andrew, Mike, and Kayla, as they get you in the huddle with the Edmonton Elks on the Turf District, Thursday nights at 8, EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tom Gazzola and Sean Bell take you on a hot lap around the NHL with Hello Hockey, Saturday mornings at 10, only on Edmonton Sports Talk. The Elks Call is the newest Edmonton Elks podcast, located in Edmonton, discussing everything Elks. Join friends of EST, Scout and Catherine, Friday nights at 8 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Get to know the winners, props, plays, parlays, and more with Nielson and Hustler. Weekday mornings at 11 on The Lock Shop, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Get all the latest news and takes on everything Oilers with Dustin Nielson and Tom Gazzola on the Oil Stream. Live at noon, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Don't feel like working? Join the Hangout. You never know what you might hear. Weekday mornings 9 to 11 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome inside the Lock Shop on a Tuesday. Is today Tuesday? Yes, Tuesday. On a Tuesday late morning. Nielsen with you. Hus is going to be popping in here right away as well. As we get you said, we're going to recap the Monday Nighter. Obviously, we're going to be talking a lot of baseball today. The Blue Jays underway here in just a few hours. And we always get lots to get to. If you're watching on YouTube right now, feel free to chime in the chat over there. What are you on tonight? What are you on in Major League Baseball playoffs? We'll certainly get into that. And, of course, if you want to text us, if you're listening live right now at EdmontonSportsTalk.com to our live feed, you are in the Lock Shop right now with Dusty and Huss, and you can text us 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. As always, the Lock Shop brought to you by our great partners at Coolbet Canada. If you have not yet signed up for an account, I've had a lot of people. I saw somebody last night texting our text line at 8 o'clock being like, Dusty, what's the code for the Lock Shop again? I said, well, it's Lock Shop. It's an easy one. But yeah, sign up for an account at coolbet.com. Use the code Lock Shop when you do. Huss, we didn't even text each other, and we're wearing the same thing today. Unbelievable.
I mean, these are, I don't need to tell you, these are the best hoodies.
I know. I love these hoodies. They're so comfortable, man.
Yeah, so it definitely in the rotation. Figured we'd get in for the Lock Shop.
Are you wearing a WST hat too?
I am wearing a
and
WST
I'm wearing an
hat.
EST hat. So,
That's
man, perfect.
we're we great minds think alike, Dustin. Great minds think alike.
Hey, we were throwing it around today on the Nielson show. CFL, because the trade deadline's coming up, but CFL free agency day, 12-hour EST/WST full day CFL free agency show. What do you think?
I'm here for long streams. We'll get Reem to join us for that. And,
Oh yeah, get the whole crew, man.
But well, listen, I can't wait. We're gonna talk CFL later on this week when we get ready for it. But
huge game
today. Big news today. Janarian Grant back at practice, and that has been like you think of a guy that's not really a regular in the offense, and you think, well, how much difference can he make? It's the Canadian football man. The return game is so big.
Huge.
Bombers did not have the horses behind Janarian Grant to come anywhere close to the production that they had with him in the lineup. So that's some big news for the Bombers as they get ready for a game that, to be honest, Dusty, is as big as any regular season game in the Canadian Football League, I'd say, in a long time. I mean, 2 10-4 teams where the winner, not only, it's essentially a game worth 2 games because the winner will be a game up, but also will have the tiebreaker. So for all intents and purposes, this game is for a home game to get to the Grey Cup. And man, cannot wait for Friday night.
Yeah, I'm not calling this one. I'm very sad. I'm not calling this one. I'll be watching it in Regina, and I will be betting on it rather significantly. The return of Janarian Grant, though, is huge. Like, if you're ranking, I mean, obviously there's Mario Alford, there's Janarian Grant, there's Leak. I mean, there's a lot of great return. Chandler Ward. Like, there's a lot of great returners across the Canadian Football League. But Janarian Grant, I thought Greg McCray might be able to be that guy a little bit, and they gave him a little bit of a look at it, but he's not Janarian Grant. I mean, if we would have been healthy Alford versus healthy Janarian Grant in Banjo Bowl and Labor Day Classic, man, that would have been amazing to call. So I think that's a huge storyline for the Bombers getting him back.
Hey, have you seen the line yet for this game?
I was just going to try to look it up. Is it up?
It is up. I haven't looked at it yet, but it is up.
Okay.
What do you think? Let's guess the line for this game. I've been thinking all week, where is this going to go off? BC at home.
I think you put the home side. Oh man, home side inside a field goal. Right? Is that not where this has to come in? Is it?
I think this might be a pick'em.
Oh man, I would love to see pick'em. I mean, it should be a pick'em. Get the 3 for being at home. Have you looked it up yet? Should we look it up?
Okay, let's see. I'm just gonna click it right now.
Yeah, let's just see. I'll look it up.
It is right there. BC -2.
Okay, so inside a field goal. Yeah. Okay.
And a total of 50.5. Bombers +112 on the money line, and BC -1.
Any thoughts on that total at 50.5, buddy?
I
think I'd lean the over. Yeah, I think I'm going to be on the over.
I mean, I have no doubt. Like the Bombers will get theirs, points wise. To me, this game is going to come down to how well the Bomber defense can play for a full 60 minutes. So yeah, I do expect points. I definitely expect points. Bombers have historically done very well in BC as well in that building. So it's going to give us a lot to talk about heading into the weekend.
This has to be like with both sides healthy and Lawler, back now for a while, and Rhymes getting back. I'm not sure the last time I remember a CFL game with this much talent in the receiving core on the field. Like, when was the last time something like this happened? It's just, these are the 1-2 teams as far as receivers go, and they're all healthy, and I can't remember the last time that this would have happened. That's exciting.
It is certainly, I mean, listen, these rosters are both stacked. I mean, as I said, I don't know what more we can say. I mean, pretty much all the key guys are going to be playing. Both, I mean, let's think about these 2 games between these teams this season. The Bombers got absolutely steamrolled earlier. It was sort of a humbling, a big wake-up call earlier this year at home. only scored 6 points in that game, which is unheard of for Winnipeg at home, and then got him back to the tune of a 50-burger later on in the season. The first game, Jackson Jeffcoat wasn't there. He is such a difference maker on the Bombers' defensive line and defensive unit. And then in the rematch, Vernon Adams wasn't playing.
Yeah, that's right.
For the first time, we're getting
I can't wait.
All hands on deck. Time to go out, win a football game, and book a West final in the home stadium.
It's probably a good thing I'm not calling this game, because I would be losing my mind the entire night. Like, the entire game would be the final 3 minutes. I'd just be losing on every play. I feel like I probably get to call this game again with more on the line later in the season, so I'll look forward to that. But yeah, I love the fact that we're already talking about this game, and it's Tuesday, and this game's happening Friday. That's how big a game this is in the Canadian Football League. What are those other lines quickly? What else have they set up here? What else do we got?
The other lines are, let me just get back to it. So BC -2 against Winnipeg. Saskatchewan opening as 4.5-point favorites at home against the Ticats. And Montreal is 7-point favorites at home against Ottawa.
Oh, pretty big number.
It's all about Winnipeg
see.
and BC this week.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, those games, it's great to have them on. Oh, can the Riders win a game? And I guess there's some questions about those other ones. But there is one true main event, and ironically, it is the first game of the weekend. Ottawa-Montreal actually is a Thanksgiving Day game. That's a noon game, Winnipeg time. I guess 1 o'clock.
Well,
Eastern
but the other game's off the book right now too, because Edmonton-Toronto is actually the first half of a Friday night double dip. It sets the stage for Winnipeg and BC. Edmonton-Toronto not up on the book right now over at Coolbet.
Probably got to figure out if Dinwiddle's going to play his guys or what. I mean, that whole Toronto lineup is sort of in flux right now with them just sitting around waiting to see who they're going to be playing.
Do a lot of people call him Dinwiddle, or is that just you?
That's probably more so just me. That goes way back. That goes way back to him getting in for Kevin Glenn in the 07 Grey Cup.
Oh, I love it. All right, let's stick with football because we're on football. Then we'll obviously get into the Blue Jays and Major League Baseball playoffs. Hus, I mean, the Seattle -2 was easy last night. The partner parlay, that one I thought as soon as, well, it was tough because when Jones threw that pick six, we had him for the INT, but as they were running it back, I was like, oh no, how much are they going to actually use Matt Breida the rest of the way now on the ground? So it was kind of like a double-edged sword there on that play. But man, the Giants, I mean, maybe it's because it was a sack fest last night, but I do feel like Daniel Jones deserves better. You know, I think there's a better quarterback there than what we're seeing right now, considering he has nobody but Darren Waller. And I mean, I'd put Barkley out there right now at 20% to help because there's nothing else going on there.
Listen, he could have Jerry Rice, Terrell Owens, and Randy Moss as the receivers right now. It wouldn't matter. They can't block. Like, what was it, 11 sacks last night?
It was embarrassing.
It was double digits for sure.
Yeah.
And this goes back to, I mean, we all remember the torture that he was put through against the Cowboys earlier this year. Their offensive line is an absolute tire fire right now. And I don't know. I'm kicking myself for Breida, the Breida pick over that because.
Well, we had Breida read all wrong because I liked him under the 13.5 receiving yards. He went over that. You liked him over in the rush yards, and he went under that. Like
the big plays that they had yardage wise with Breida were receiving, and we're rushing, even though he had way more touches.
Yeah,
from a receiving perspective. I'll say this: the Seattle defense showed up. That Witherspoon, that guy they took 5th overall. What
he's
a performance
good
by him! 2 sacks, a pick six. I mean, literally everybody on the Seattle defense got in on it. I mean, sack for everybody, a bunch of turnovers. But to me, I mean, Brian Daboll, and listen, he was pissed at the pick Danny Dimes threw on the 3-yard line. That basically ended the game. I mean, they get in there, it's 14-9, they get a 2-pointer, it's 14-11, and it's game on.
I get it, but scheme something better to help the guy. Like,
yeah.
Keep a few guys in to block and give him some bloody time, you know? It's It's the Giants were such a little feel-good story last year, man, but it's fallen apart kind of quickly this year. What they say on the broadcast last night, he had 2 passing touchdowns in that quarter against the Cardinals and doesn't have another one the rest of the season.
Dude, basically they played 15 minutes of good football.
Yeah, the whole year
season.
Yeah. It was great that we did have I was on I bet it yesterday during the show when Patty brought it up, but the plus money on the Daniel Jones INT.
Yeah.
That was awesome. That was a nice one to cash. I know there was a few lock shoppers that were certainly on that as well. Hus, have you taken a look ahead here to the lines in the NFL this week? Is there anything that we need to move on super early in the week, do you think?
Well, you know what? I mean, let's take a quick look at it.
Let's whip through these.
For whatever reason, this Thursday game is off the board right now. It looks like it's 6.5 for the Commanders. And by the way, that is the Bears at the Commanders. Create your schedule accordingly.
How about this? We're doing a watch party at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge with our whole crew and a bunch of listeners, because if you're going to watch this game, you might as well do it with a bunch of friends, right? So we're going to have the whole crew out. It should be a pretty good time.
By the way, I've been seeing some of Eric's tweets from hosting football out there. Looks like they've got some pretty good grub in that sports bar. Every time he throws something out, I'm like, geez, we're in Edmonton.
We're going to be rolling in. Yeah, we're going to be rolling in on Thursday and just being like, we'll take 20 brisket cheesesteaks, please. Thank you very much. Because that's all Eric's been pumping up his Thursday night is this brisket sandwich, man. And I cannot wait to get a piece of it. Now, if it doesn't live up to the hype, that's on LTE, or he's just a hell of a salesman, right? So I'm looking forward to it. I think
I've seen the pictures. I've seen the pictures.
Yeah, they got the off-track betting right there, too, so we can bet on the ponies while we're watching the
well, that's perfect because, again, the Bears are on Thursday Night Football, so you guys are going to have to deal with that as well. Let's see. Opening lines. Bills, 5.5 at home against the Jags. Bills are on a steamroll mission right now. The Texans, plus 1.5 in Atlanta against the Falcons. Interesting matchup. CJ Stroud on fire. Your Lions laying 9 at home against the winless Panthers.
That's big.
Pick 'em. Indy minus a half point. Basically a pick 'em between Indy and the Tennessee Titans. 1.5 is the spread with the Saints and Patriots. Patriots, a very slight home favorite. Ravens, 3.5 point favorites in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. I don't look forward to picking that game this week. Bengals and Cardinals. Bengals 3-point favorites on the road.
Man, imagine the Bengals at the beginning of the year only getting 3 points or giving 3 points up against the Cardinals. You know, that's how much things have changed in 4 weeks.
Oh, and having the same record?
Yeah, that too.
Don't forget about that. Philly, 4-point favorites in LA against the Rams. The Broncos, 1.5-point favorites against the Jets. Nathaniel Hackett, Sean Payton. That even though those teams are in rough situations right now, there's a lot going into that game. And then the game I'm going to be at, Chiefs Vikings in the Twin Cities. Kansas City, 5-point favorites against Minnesota. Sunday nighter, great game. San Francisco home to Dallas. San Fran, 3.5-point favorites. And then the Monday nighter is the Packers and the Raiders. What is it going to be? Jordan Love versus Aiden O'Connell in prime time?
Over 3.5 field goals, please.
Yes, exactly.
Just a couple of the things that kind of pop up to me right away. That Bears-Commanders game's back on the board here now, too. It's looking like 6.5 here is what I'm seeing right now. And it looks like you can bet it. Considering the way the Jags have been kind of up and down and stuck in neutral here, and the Bills have been crushing everybody, do you think we're going to see that line move one way or the other here? It sits at that weird 5.5 right now, Hus.
Maybe it gets to 6.
Yeah. I don't see it going the other way at all.
No. I mean, listen, Jacksonville has not. Oh, wait a second. This isn't in Buffalo. This is a London game.
Oh, this is the overseas game.
Yeah, I mean, the Jags are playing back-to-back in London. They've been there all week.
Bills will be coming over.
Maybe. Well, that's interesting. Listen, I think because of that, it might get to 6. but I don't think we're going to be seeing it get to a touchdown or anything like that. Hey, by the way, just while we're here talking NFL, all the futures and props are back up until Thursday night. And there's some pretty interesting numbers here, especially considering kind of our preseason picks and bets. First off, the Chiefs are the favorite in the AFC at plus 275, Buffalo plus 375, and Miami got taken down a notch to plus 550 after that loss on the weekend. Niners plus 210 to win the NFC, Eagles plus 325, Cowboys plus 375. And Bills back on top at minus 125 to win the AFC East, Miami plus 110. But what's really interesting is these player awards.
I
and
see
remember
it.
how we were talking yesterday about the MVP. So Josh Allen, with his play over the last 3 weeks, despite that rough start on Monday Night Football, is the leader at plus 375. Mahomes is next at plus 525. Tua is plus 550. Lamar plus 850. Jalen Hurts at 9-1. And then is Christian McCaffrey 10-1. And remember I said yesterday, we'll see when that discourse comes and when people start sort of mentioning about McCaffrey as a potential MVP. Well, I saw the first article last night on ESPN after we did the shows. So if he keeps going at the clip that he's at without any quarterback truly running away with it, McCaffrey's going to be right there. And it sort of feels a little bit like that season that Sean Alexander won the MVP. I mean, he's doing things that haven't been done in a long time. And there's no one standout on the other side. Tons of time left to go, of course. But if you missed out on McCaffrey at 70-1 preseason and want to get him at 10-1 right now, he's right there. And then the rest of its quarterbacks as well. Purdy 12, Herbert 17, Lawrence 25-1, and Dak 35-1 right now. And the Niners are the favorites to win the Super Bowl right now at plus 530, and the Chiefs at plus 585.
It's weird seeing Purdy right there with CMC. You know, like, let's be honest. If you had to, nothing against Purdy. I mean, he all he does is win. I get it. He has McCaffrey there as the main weapon to kind of do a lot of the heavy lifting there. I think I saw it was the Score or something yesterday tweeted out some odds, or I don't even know where they got them from or whatever it was. I guess it was Score Bet, but they had Purdy like 6th on the list, and McCaffrey wasn't anywhere to be seen. And I quote tweeted, I said, you got to be on quite a drug to think that CMC isn't the MVP of the 49ers offense. You know, like, watch a game. Purdy's efficient. He's super smooth. He's better than I thought he was. But Christian McCaffrey's the engine that makes that thing go, and it's not even debatable.
Yeah, I mean, he's not throwing any picks. But he's got the benefit of arguably the best defense in football and the most electric position player that is making something happen every single time he touches the ball right now. So, like, all respect to Purdy, and I mean, they're playing great. And I mean, I guess if they keep on winning week in and week out, but I mean, I really do think that if it comes down to it, and I think Coolbet's got the numbers right. I think McCaffrey right now is more likely than Purdy to win the MVP, even though Purdy's a quarterback, and it's a very different situation than most of the other QBs on the board.
780-218-9999. If you want to text in, or you can chime in on the YouTube chat right now. And, I just want to throw this out there because, a lot of people would be listening on EdmontonSportsTalk.com and they'll listen live or on the YouTube and just being like, oh, Lock Shop, it's just a football show. It's just a football show. Once regular season hockey starts, it's full-blown overload here because we're going to have a ton of football to talk about. We're going to be talking about hockey every single day as well. And then, we even like to dabble in a little NBA every once in a while, Hus and I. So there's no shortage of things that we're going to get to. So we are going to have a ton of hockey on the Lock Shop when things finally going. And actually, but let's anything like we'll talk some baseball playoffs tomorrow, but we could dive into an NHL futures episode tomorrow for sure if we really wanted to, right? Like, we should definitely do that.
I'm staring at the NHL futures right now. There's a lot there's a lot up right now. I mean, Connor Bedard props, which we'll definitely have to spend some time on. And yeah, we got like just over a week till the regular season. So we'll be banging out plenty of NHL futures, player props, and more as we get closer to, I guess, what opening night is next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday, and then next Tuesday things get rolling. So we'll definitely hammer one on Wednesday, and probably again on Tuesday morning. I would think we get in there pretty good.
I think what we need to do is and maybe tomorrow is that day to kind of dive into some of our favorite player props as well as a few of the other predictions, because on Monday we'll be, well, first of all, Monday's a holiday. So actually,
that's right. We won't have an episode that day. Yeah.
Back from the weekend, we'll be doing that show on Tuesday, and that'll sort of be last call for NHL
props.
bets.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, let's get into some of our favorites over the next couple days. I mean, I'll get a few locked and loaded for tomorrow. You can do the same, hit some players. And of course, when you talk about division winners, cup winners, all of that, all there right now. So we can kind of get extensive into the pucks tomorrow as we get closer to puck
I do want to quickly point out that Evan Bouchard's point total now sits at 56.5. When it opened, it was at 44.5. And Edmonton crushed the number on the over, and we've moved it 12 points. So I still feel pretty comfortable with the 56.5 taking the over, to be honest with you. Richard Croft is Quinn Hughes total goals 7.5. Over on that is my investment, Dusty. He was mentioning yesterday about getting in on that. The only thing, that was right after Quinn Hughes scored 2 in the preseason against the Oilers. And he's like, well, how's he not going to score over 7.5? But he's been right around that number. He's kind of a playmaker, right? I think his last 3 years has been 8 goals, 7 goals, 8 goals, or 2 years with 7 and 1 year with 8. So, but I do like that. I'd probably ride with you on the 7.5 as well. I like that number, yeah. Richard. Yeah.
Quinn Hughes in there. The specials are up there too. Remember on the lock shop when we got the Oilers Leafs potential final at 40-1?
Yeah.
And then it quickly went to 35. It's now 27. So there's obviously been a lot of people going on there. And have we had line movement in Jack Campbell?
We do. We have line movement. Jack Campbell is starting goalie. It's up to plus 180. He played excellent last night.
I could saw a couple of his saves online.
I could see Oilers fans watching last night and going, "Go look up the Vezina odds. I want to see if anybody's bet on him enough to move that line." It's 50. It was 50-1. I'm going to be pretty intrigued if they've actually had some action come in on Campbell and the Vezina to the point where it moved. I highly doubt it, but he was at 50-1. Yeah, he's still at 50-1, and then Skinner's at 100-1.
Campbell wins the Vezina. If Campbell wins the Vezina, the Oilers are good for about 135 or 140 points in the regular season.
Yeah. Crush the over on that, too. Team totals and everything, by the way, also available over at CoolBet. But we'll dive into a heavy hockey episode on NHL Futures tomorrow on The Lock Shop. Major League Baseball playoffs, Hus. How much are you already invested in this? What do you got? What are you already on?
Well, I had to do the play of the day a little early today because of the afternoon game. I wanted to get it in for the Blue Jays. And by the way, when this opened yesterday, it was basically a pick 'em. The Jays were minus 104. The Twins were minus.
It's moving in favor of the Twins, right? Because this morning we made it the cool bet line of the day on the Nielsen show, and we got the Jays at minus 102, and they're now plus 104.
Plus 104. Well, I was just mentioning, I used my free bet from the weekend to throw on the money line. But yeah, now's the time to do it. I don't think we're going to get any better than minus 1 than plus 104. I have a feeling that this will probably be closer to even money by the time the game begins. But I'm in on Gausman tonight. He had a real strong end to the season. I mean, his pitching prop for tonight, the strikeouts is 6.5, over is minus 139. But my favorite bet, and what I threw out for the play of the day, is the Gausman pitching outs over 15.5. Like, if he's rolling, which, I mean, I think we all hope and know that he's capable of and hope that he will be, like, I don't see them looking to get him out to save him a little later on. I mean, if you've got your ace dealing, striking guys out, being successful, you leave him in there in the playoffs. So, basically, we're talking about, can he get an out in the 6th inning, get through 5 and get an out in the 6th? I think that is highly probable. So I've got the over on the pitching outs for Kevin Gausman at 15.5. I like that one. And obviously the strikeout number is so juiced up. But put it this way, I'd love for both of those to come in, because if he's getting into the 6th or 7th inning and he's striking out 7 or 8, that's a very, very good thing for the Blue Jays to draw first blood.
Any thoughts on this total sitting at 7.5? Overs -105, under -115.
Huh. I usually kind of stay away from the. I mean, if I had to, I think I'd probably go under. I mean, knowing that the Blue Jays bats have not been very good at runners in scoring position. And if they're going to win, I think, we've seen a couple really low scoring games as of late with the Blue Jays. And a big part of that is the pitching, and they've got their guy on the mound. The Twins have their ace right now. So if you had to jump on it one way or the other, I think I'd lean under. But again, weird things happen in the playoffs. I'm hoping that the Jays bats wake up. I mean, we've been waiting all season for that. But, you can change the narrative very quickly with a big couple games in the postseason.
But do you expect the bats to wake up? I mean, it'd be kind of weird to somehow manage to turn that on right now, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think Bo, I'm looking at Bo. I mean, I really think that he has sort of become the leader of the team. Although guys like George Springer that have a lot of
that's what he's here for, right? This is why Springer's here.
Absolutely. I don't have a lot of faith in Matt Chapman. He's had a really rough year at the plate. Guys like Dalton Varsho, not so much. Maybe it'll be Kevin Biggio that has had this great run to end the year. I mean, at one point, I didn't even know whether he was going to stick around in the major leagues. And now, I mean, at some time, Matt Chapman got pinch hit for the first time in his career in the last month for Kevin Biggio. So he's going to be the guys. If you look at total bases, though, I mean, as far as for tonight's game, Bo is over 1.5 is at +116. What do we got for George Springer?
+136.
136 for Springer for 2 total bases. Like the Matt Chapman, the number is 0.5. I mean, it basically says, he's -161. Obviously, it's quite low.
Yeah, like Biggio right now, over 0.5 is -147, right? That's where that's where they're going to come in at, right? But what's Vladdy at? Over 1.5 +136, exact same number as George.
What about homers? Player homers. What are we looking at today? Bo Bichette, +750. Brandon Belt, +350. Wow. Springer, +650. Chapman, +400. And Vlad, +500. If you want to take a little swing on some homer props for the game.
I think if I had to, I'm not going to, but if I had to, we were just saying Springer is supposed to be here for this type of occasion. I might sprinkle Springer for a bomb at +650.
I don't mind it.
Frustrating year though. Frustrating year for all these guys. It's just like I was reading Scott Mitchell at TSN had his like kind of 4 keys to the series, and it was like, will the bats wake up? Pitching's a strength. That's just like, if you would have told me we'd be sitting here at this stage of them kind of backing into the playoffs with Manoah doing nothing this year, I would have said, oh, well, the bats just were awesome all year and that's how they got in and pitching's an issue. And it's the exact opposite. Like, this Jays team has been the exact opposite of what we expected.
Exactly. I mean, the Jays had 4 pitchers that started 31 or more games. No other team in the league had more than 2. The bullpen's been pretty good. Let me ask you this, and this isn't as much a betting question, just a Jays overall question. It certainly will affect the money line. Where's your confidence level in Romano right now? Because he was lights out. He had 26 straight, and then the last 10 days or so, he's gotten rocked a couple times.
I think if we were putting it on like a scale of 1 to 10, and during the hot stretch, it was a 9. I'm like at a 7.5 right now. Like, I wouldn't be scared of having to trot him out there in those key moments where you need him, but I'd be a little leery of which way it may end up going, right? Like,
Well, here's the other thing too, and I'll be honest, the one thing that really makes me nervous about the Blue Jays is the guy pulling the string, Schneider. Like
I'm not sold.
he's made so many weird decisions this year. But like we had Josh Goldberg on the show yesterday, and he did a good job of kind of laying out. I mean, you have to be concerned with Schneider, but he has to understand that this isn't the regular season. You know, you don't just sit there with your best guys and wait until there's an official save situation to get him out there. I mean, the ability to figure out and make those changes in the bullpen is going to be so crucial right now. And I just hope he doesn't screw it up, to be perfectly honest with you. At the end of the day, who's ever out there has to make the pitches and get guys out. But the management of the roster, and in particular the bullpen, is a bit of a concern for me.
Just taking a look at the series specials for the Twins and Blue Jays. If you like the Jays to win this series, -120. The Twinkies +100 right now. Jays to sweep +260. Jays in 3 +260. Yeah. Twins +290 for both to sweep and to win the series. If you like this series to go the distance over 2.5, you're looking at -110 right now, which I think that's probably the play there, Hus. The way the season has gone for the Jays, I would not expect them. I would expect them to be swept more than actually get the sweep. But I also don't think they get swept. So I would think that this thing probably goes 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a we were doing something on the show yesterday. I mean, speaking of the odds for this series. And by the time we were on Winnipeg Sports Talk, the line had moved to where it is right now, with the Twins being the underdogs in the series at even money and the Jays being at -120. But they hadn't yet corrected the exact series correct score. So we did the example at the time, the Blue Jays 2-0 was +300 and Blue Jays 2-1 was +275. And we did a little example. Okay, if you want to bet this, what's your best way to do it? Because you do have options. If you bet $100 on the Jays to win the series at -120, it paid back $183. But if you split that bet and put 50 on Jays to win 2-0 and 50 to win Jays 2-1, you were getting either 187 in one case or you were getting 200 in the other. So sometimes, when one line moves and the other one doesn't, it does give you a bit of an angle or an advantage to get a better number. It caught up at about 20 minutes later on. So there was just that little window there right now. But tell you what, I just have a feeling that this team, and let's not forget the Twins are haunted in the postseason. I think it would be somewhat humiliating for the Jays to be the team that the Twins finally turn it around against. But I got confidence in this team. A lot of it comes from the pitching. I do think that some guys will step up in that lineup, and I can't wait to get things going. Have you taken a look at these other series at all?
I haven't dove into the other series just yet. I was also just looking at the World Series and AL and NL winter odds too. But is there anything you really love from those other series? Is there one thing that you're all over?
I mean, let's just go through it. The Phillies are big favorites, -200 against the Marlins. I do think Philly wins. And you know what? I might jump on +170 at Phillies 2-0. If you want to get a little bit of value of Phillies sweep. The Brewers D-backs. Like, I'm sort of amazed that the D-backs are in the playoffs, but that was a team, well, frankly, they're benefiting big time from that trade with the Blue Jays. I mean, we can talk about Dalton Varsho and the pros and cons to him.
Man.
But that catch, that kid, that Gabriel Moreno's been awesome. Gurriel Jr.'s having a good season. But I definitely think that Milwaukee probably wins that series. Although I wouldn't be surprised if it actually does go the distance and ends up as 2-1. But Milwaukee's at a -175. And then you've got the Rays and the Rangers. It's pretty clear, with the exception of the Blue Jays Twins series, these other short series, and again, we're just talking a best of 3, all have pretty significant favorites. And you'd have to think that in such a short series, one of these teams is going to get knocked off. But pretty big favorites considering what we're talking about here, with Milwaukee, Philly, and the Rays being anywhere from -175 to -200.
It'd be very interesting to see how this year plays out in Major League Baseball. If the Jays, at what point if the Jays get by the Twins, Hus, does do they take the nation by storm? Because there's this hesitancy, I think, right now from a lot of fans to be like, oh, here we go, Jays are in the postseason. But let's say they sweep the Twins, which could happen because the Twins basically been swept for 10 years. Do you think that changes? Like all of a sudden, are we like, is it the talk of the country, especially with hockey season starting? Like those other teams back in the day, everybody, that's all you wanted to be a part of, right? You're going to Blue Jays watch parties with Bautista and Double E and all that stuff. This group just ain't it. So I'm wondering what they have to accomplish to become that.
Win a game, win 2 games.
Win 2 games.
People be all in. I mean, I think people are sort of maybe more quietly preparing themselves for the bandwagon because they don't want to be let down again like they were last year.
But get to the ALDS and it's on, basically, like.
Oh, yeah. Listen, win today and it's on. Everyone will be fired up tomorrow for the game. But, yeah, if they can win and move on to that next series, I think everyone will be all in. I mean, Toronto will be behind the team. And, listen, I know hockey's starting next week, and it's always an exciting time for hockey fans. For crying out loud, it's an 82-game regular season. We can pay attention to baseball for a couple more weeks, hopefully a few more weeks if the Jays can get on a bit of a roll. They have the talent to do it. It's just a matter of can they execute, particularly at the plate, and not lean so much on a pitching staff that's given them so much this year.
We'll see what ends up happening on that front. But if you do want to chime in, 780-218-9999. We asked the question on our show today, who do you want to see become the Blue Jays hero? Like, not who do you think will be, but which guy do you want to see kind of be Mr. Clutch in the postseason? And there's memes and there's gifs of him all season long in the playoffs here.
I think he's not in the starting rotation for the first 3 games, but he could very well be important. Kikuchi,
your guy.
Now,
Kikuchi.
If we're talking about, I mean, hey, I'm the president of the Kikuchi fan club, so obviously I was going to start there. But looking at that roster, well, I'll tell you, who I'd love to see get going is Chapman.
Yeah, that would be great.
All of a sudden, gone on a bit of a heater. What that does to the lineup, I think, is really, really significant. I mean, Vladdy, sure. I expect the most out of Bo and George Springer. Those are the guys that I expect to be there. But, man, who would I like to see step up and make a difference? Matt Chapman. And, man, he's got to do it. He's going into free agency right now. He could erase a lot of the disappointment of his season at the plate with some big games under the bright lights of the postseason.
I always like little Alejandro Kirk to do something special somewhere along the way. Like Kirk imagine 15 years from now being back and telling like Marshall and Elizabeth, when you were 6-8, the hero the year the Jays won the World Series was Alejandro Kirk. He was the same size as you, Marshall, and look what he managed to accomplish in Major League Baseball. The Chapman one is very interesting, though. Chapman was supposed to be a significant piece to accomplish what they're going to accomplish right now, which not many people are expecting to accomplish. And part of it is because Chapman isn't the Chapman that they thought they were getting on that front. Hus, before I let you go, we'll tee up what's happening on Winnipeg Sports Talk in a sec. I'll get to a Fantasy Football 5. How are your fantasy football teams doing 4 weeks in here?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Pretty good overall. I've got McCaffrey. I've got a nice McCaffrey share on some of my teams, and he's just been an absolute beast. Although I actually lost a game this weekend with McCaffrey.
With McCaffrey in the lineup? How did that happen?
Like everything else went the wrong way, to say the least. He's been so good. And it was a bit of a down week for Mahomes, but I'm heavily invested in Mahomes. I stupidly, how you lose a game with McCaffrey in the lineup? You start Jordan Addison over Nico Collins. And Jordan Addison gets you 0.
I also started Addison in a league ahead of Collins this week, too. I also had Collins in 2 leagues. So that helped as well.
Nico Collins is now must start territory.
Oh yeah.
Must start every single week. I can't believe I didn't do that.
I'm in the in the league with Jamie Thomas. I was talking about the offer he sent me today on my show. Jamie Thomas offered me Deshaun Watson and an 11th round pick for CJ Stroud and a 14th round pick, and in a keeper league. And I politely said, "Go F yourself, Jamie Thomas," because I don't want to go anywhere near Deshaun Watson. And why? Where I think I picked Stroud up off waivers even. I don't even know if I drafted him late. But why in the world why would I trade him for Deshaun Watson? Can't do it. I can't buy into Deshaun Watson right now. That'd be a ridiculous move.
He was injured last week, and CJ Stroud looks unreal. In that league though, I'm 3-1.
I'm 1-3.
1-3. Jeez, what the Calvin's Johnson.
Yeah.
1-3. And there is I've only got 28 waiver dollars left though.
You've almost spent your entire fab already.
I made up big. I spent $40 because I had Chubb.
Okay. So you needed to do something there.
Dunzo, and I've got Kareem Hunt.
I screwed up in that league because I took Kelsey first overall, let CMC go second. I should have just taken McCaffrey. I was trying to be pretty. I thought the tight end position would be a significant boost for Kelsey. It's not there yet. I still think Kelsey's going to win me some games, but I should have just taken CMC. Hate myself for that decision.
Yes, and now I've got a bit of a part of the reason why that team was doing so well, because I'm really left with I don't have much at running back. And of course, we'll see what happens with Jonathan Taylor. He's been on my bench the entire year. I've got Cook and Zach Moss. But Kirk Cousins had those 3 monster games to start the season. He came down to earth last week. But I've got Anthony Richardson. And Richardson went for 30 last week. He's a very, very exciting guy. I have a hard time imagining having my running back and quarterback both from the Colts. It's not really I normally like the way I like to set my teams up. But that's where we're at right now. So we got to be. Oh, and by the way, Cam Akers, speaking of fantasy, 5 carries for 40 yards in the last game, averaging 8 a carry. And it wasn't like he had one long. His longest run was 10 yards. So I wouldn't at all be surprised if we see more Cam Akers coming up this weekend for the Vikings. Because I don't think Madison is the guy. That's one thing that I'm.
Hey, if you're bringing in Akers, that means that they don't think Madison's the guy either, right? So, I'll get to the Fantasy Football 5 here in just a second. It's waiver day. We'll dive into some of the best waiver wire targets out there right now. Winnipeg Sports Talk. What's coming up today, Hus?
Well, we're all week. We're going to be talking Bombers Lions. Ted Wyman from the Sun is going to jump on.
What a game! What a game! God,
yeah, listen, it's great. And then. The Jets played their second last preseason game last night. Some nice performances by a couple of the young guys trying to crack the roster. Maybe some more concerning performances by some vets. So we'll dive into all of that. And then we're going to head down to the Twin Cities in the last half hour. Our pal Jesse Pierce give us a bit of a preview as we go around the Central Division. But I have a feeling we're going to probably detour to Jay's Twins, which will be coming up this afternoon in about less than 3 hours right now. So get your wagers in for some Major League Baseball playoffs action, and we'll go from there. So, 1 o'clock, 15 minutes from now, Winnipeg Sports Talk YouTube. And ESTers, if you would be so kind, come on over if you haven't already, and give us a sub on the channel. We are less than 50 away from 10K.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it.
Our goal for that is to get there for next Wednesday, when the Jets start their season in Calgary. We'd love to see you jump over with us after enjoying what the EST fellas have been doing.
We'll hammer that tomorrow morning for you too. We'll get. Let's do that. If you say you're 50 away.
Oh, yeah, we're now at 9.95, nice. So we're less than 50 away.
We just closed in. We're almost to 4,300. So it's working. It's working. It's nice.
Hey, you know what? The thing is, it's like everything. You get a big bump at the start when you get going.
Yeah.
And then it is the consistency of the product. Yeah. You're there each and every day. More and more people need you. You guys are doing great stuff with social media, different ways to kind of let people know where you are now.
Yeah.
and it's gonna just keep going like that.
By the way, quick in the YouTube chat from Pat says, "Nice hoodie, boys. What do you say we do a little Lock Shop Cool Bet swag giveaway soon?" That's a great idea. That's a really good idea.
Definitely. And I might need another one of these because I've literally almost worn through this thing. I've worn it so much.
I've got three. I've got three of these, and I just rotate them. So when people are like, "You're wearing the same Cool Bet hoodie every single time," actually, technically, I'm not. It's in a cycle, and I've got three of these Cool Bet hoodies. So yeah, I've got them. We're good.
We're simple men, guys. Yeah. It's a very tight rotation of what gets in. By the way, how's the Muzz in the arm doing?
Good, man. The Muzz is grinding out. She's back at school today. Nothing's going to keep her down. She's learning how to do everything with just one hand. And she's just tough. Like, she's really tough. So, yeah, the Muzz is going to be just fine. Thanks for asking.
Perfect.
All right, buddy.
Perfect.
Okay, man. We'll have a good show.
Say hi to the gang.
I will, for sure.
You got it.
Okay, we'll be watching later, man. Okay, we'll see you later.
Right on. Take it easy.
All right, welcome to the Fantasy Football 5, brought to you by Century Casino on Fort Road, the new sports bar and lounge. And if you're watching this right now, you are probably the type of person that wants to join us for Thursday Night Football. We'll be set up for the Bears and the Commanders. I will be in a full-blown Justin Fields fantasy sweat. Can't wait for everybody to be taking part in that. They actually emailed me today, and they're like, "Hey, how big a table do you guys need for your crew?" And I said, "Well, we've got R5, and then I think Tommy's bringing his mom and his brother and his dad if it's not busy. YouTube Trev's going to bring his dad. I'm bringing my dad, I think. Jay Milne's going to be popping by. So we're going to have at least a table of 10 to 15 just for the EST crew. And then we're hoping to have, 20, 30, 40, 50 listeners join us as well. So Thursday Night Football at the Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge on Fort Road. Eric's there every Monday and Thursday. They are the presenting sponsor of everything we do from a National Football League perspective, including Ian Rappaport, who joins us every Thursday morning on the Nielson Show at 7:45. If you're watching right now, make sure you subscribe to the Fantasy Football 5 podcast. Just throw it in on all your podcasting platforms. You can find the page as well over at edmontonsportstalk.com. Waiver wire priority week number 5. I don't know how much waiver action there is in leagues where there's just one quarterback. So here, let me bring up one of my leagues right now where, here we go. This is a 12-team league. This is the league I'm in with Hus and Jamie Thomas, the one that we were just talking about. So let's see which quarterbacks are available right now in this league. Jimmy Garoppolo, Jones, Tannehill, Dobbs. Dobbs is a weird one because I feel like you're not starting him, and he's projected for like 13.8 points. He's averaging so far this year 18 points per start. So that's probably not one I'm looking at. There's nobody else available in that league that I would look at. If you're in a league where somebody doesn't have CJ Stroud already, I would 100% pick him up. I picked him up in this league. He's startable at this point. I think I saw on CBS he's like 70% owned in leagues right now. So that's a guy that you could certainly look at. Sam Howell's an interesting one as well. Wasn't it Riverboat Ron saying, I didn't know how good he was. Well, it turns out he's pretty good. He's averaging over 16 points per game in fantasy right now. So it's not going to win you your league. But if you're struggling for quarterbacks or you're streaming quarterbacks from week to week, look at the matchup. Maybe Howell would be somebody that you could look at certain times. Howell and Dawes would be the only two. Don't buy into like a decent Zach Wilson game. I don't think there's anybody else that you're going to hop in on that front. There are a couple interesting running backs this week. One would be the local guy, Chuba Hubbard, who Sanders is banged up. This past week, more of the snap shares went to Chuba Hubbard. If this thing lingers with Sanders or it gets to a point where maybe they just, I don't want to say they're going to shut him down, but let's be honest, their season's going in the absolute tank right now. So that would be something that you could look at and go, well, at some point, maybe they just run Chuba Hubbard heavy, give Sanders a few weeks off. So that's one that I would look at. Chuba Hubbard is 52% rostered in CBS leagues. In Yahoo leagues, I think he's 54% rostered. I don't have Sleeper up here right now, but that's a guy you could probably look at. The big prize, the guy that everybody's going to overpay for with fab budget this week, and I've got a lot of fab budget left in my leagues, and I do need running backs in some of the leagues. Jaleel McLaughlin of the Denver Broncos. Javonte Williams, he's obviously been banged up. He's hurt again right now. Sean Payton has been talking about McLaughlin's performance and what he did in week 4 and where we go from here. So that's a guy. He would be available. Let me look at this league. Chuba's available. I don't know. Oh, yeah, and there's McLaughlin available as well. So somebody you can, I don't know if you're picking up and starting immediately, but definitely somebody worth stashing. Another guy I would look at in deeper leagues, and I'm in that 16-team league, Ronnie Rivers with the Rams. He's kind of established himself as the number 2 behind Kyron Williams. And if you're in these leagues and you got these extra roster spots, stash running backs, because you know what happens to running backs? The starters get hurt. And then you get this guy for 1 or 2 weeks, and then maybe he takes the job and runs with it. So that would be one guy that I would look at as well. Super deeper leagues, Deuce Vaughn with the Dallas Cowboys as well. Their backup got injured in week 4, so that could be something you would look at. Jameson Williams, it's go time for him in Detroit. I don't know how much he's going to factor in immediately, but with the suspension being reduced from 6 weeks to 4 weeks, he is good to go. He's probably only rostered in about 50% of leagues. So that's, I don't say it's sneaky. Everybody should know exactly what's going on here, but that's a guy that you might want to eventually slide and take a look at. And what about this Wilson in Arizona? I don't know much about him, but he had a pretty nice week in week 3, and he had a great week in week 4. Let's see if he's available in my 12-team league. That's pretty much, this is pretty much your basic. Yeah, Michael Wilson's available. This would be how it would be in a lot of leagues, like Wandale Robinson, Braxton Berrios. I don't mind that. Berrios I've got stashed in a couple of leagues, deeper leagues. And then, yeah, Michael Wilson. Might be time to pick him up. I can't believe I'm sitting here and we're talking about a Dobbs-Wilson week in fantasy. But here we are. And they get the Bengals, and the Bengals have been an absolute disaster right now. Michael Wiggins says, Jameson Williams, my number 1 waiver wire pickup, 10 to 40%. Then, I don't know, at the very bottom of the YouTube chat, let me just move this tweet up because, like, there's a little heart sign. I'm just going to bump it up. There we go. 10 to 40% on Jameson, then Dobbs 5 to 15%, and Wilson 5 to 15% of the budget. I'd be interested to see where you get. Let me see. I don't think Williams. I think I actually might have Jameson Williams in this league. I drafted him in a bunch of leagues, and if I've had room, I just sort of kind of kept him on the roster. Nope, I don't have him in this league. Well, that sucks. But I do got C.J. Stroud and Justin Fields, so I'm pretty decent in the fantasy quarterback department. I don't know how much it's going to cost to pick up Jameson Williams in these leagues. 40% should get him. But it depends. Like, what if you're sitting around and there's a few guys in your league who have 100% of their fab left? I could see them dropping 45, 50% of it on Jameson Williams. So good luck. We'll see what ends up happening on that front. But that's a guy that you probably want to get your hands on there. Once again, if you ever have any fantasy football questions, Fantasy Football 5 is not a lot of time to dive into this. We'll get to some starts of the week a little bit later on, starts and sits a little bit later on. We'll take a look at must starts and must sits for the Thursday nighter as well as we work our way through the week. But if you ever have any questions, just tweet directly at me at Nielsen TSN 1260 or slide into my DMs, and I'll try to reply to as many as I can, or I'll save them and get them in on the show. Fantasy Football 5 today and every day, brought to you by our great partners at Century Casino, Sports Bar and Lounge, Fort Road, and make plans to join us for that Thursday nighter this week. Myself, Maddie, Tommy, YouTube Trev, Lieutenant Eric, like half of our parents are going to be in attendance, and a bunch of AM Nasties are going to be rolling in as well. We're actually going to be giving away a guest spot on the Hangout. If you are in attendance on Thursday night, one of you will win that, and somebody else is going to qualify for that trip they're giving away at Century Casino as well. The fun continues here on Edmonton Sports Talk. We've got 2 guys in the goalie with myself, Gage, and Cass coming up. We will dive into Nurse and Bouchard. We'll dive into just who in the heck is Ben Gleason, and we'll complete our top 50. We got the top 10 players in the league that we would start a team around right now. That should be a pretty good debate. And Jack Campbell. We've already had some back and forth on the Oilers goaltending between Cass and Gager, so we'll kind of handicap where that race is at right now and get into that today on 2 guys and a goalie. If you're watching right now on the Fantasy Football 5 on YouTube, make sure your autoplay is on, and that will directly take you over to 2 guys and a goalie. We got a big episode coming up today. Very much looking forward to it. Thank you for tuning in to the Fantasy Football 5. Our coverage continues here just after 12 o'clock at EdmontonSportsTalk.com.